And I think that's the crazy part, which is that, look, they only reversed course because they got caught. Like, let's be 100% true.
Oh, yeah.
But what I loved is,
no doubt about
you're
it.
like, wait, but the existing terms of service mean they could still fine you if they want to. So it's like, do you really have the freedom? And then it's like, well, what do you do?
Well,
I mean, there's really only a couple of PayPals, right?
That's right.
Yeah,
that's
like
right.
what do you do if you're on eBay? What do you do?
It fits perfectly with the monologue you did yesterday, which is like, you know, we used to have this era of television news and like this shared cultural experience. And there were these very official gatekeepers of who got to speak on those platforms and who didn't.
Right.
Now, for a brief window, you sort of had this, you know, really open marketplace where all kinds of voices could bubble up. People saying things that are in line with the elite views, people saying things that are dissident, people saying things that are crazy, dangerous, hateful, all of the above, right? And so now there's a kind of freak out around the rough and tumble of that kind of a system. So they want to put back in place some sort of gatekeepers in this new regime. And that's exactly what all of this is about. You know, it also reminds me very much of the situation that happened on YouTube, you know, before we were in the game, where some blue chip, you know, regular American company had their advertisement placed on some like white nationalist YouTube channel. There was a total corporate freakout and meltdown. And overnight they said, you know what, we're just not gonna place ads on news and politics at all. And so like that, people who, you know, made their entire living off of YouTube were shit out of luck.
Yeah, it's like, what do you do?
You're
not
done.
Gonna build a new YouTube.
There's one YouTube. I mean, at that point, there was no Rumble. There were really no alternatives. It was YouTube. That was it. Now they ultimately, because of outcry and a backlash, they reversed course. But I think these companies could make similarly draconian moves at any moment, and we're completely subject to their whims, you know, ultimately. And that's why these issues matter so much for just having like an actual functioning, workable democracy.
Yeah, I know. I mean, here's the problem though. Who's the only entity that's big enough to disrupt PayPal? The government.
The government.
And you're like, well, do you really want them to do it? It's like,
there's no other choice.
Right, and then you're like, well, but how do we make sure that we don't have the Canadian system? It's like, well, you know, and this is why it's a real pickle.
But
I really don't know.
At least if it's in the government's hands.
Yeah, then we could sue.
You have, yes, some direct measure of like democratic accountability. Now, it could be a lot better than it is. The amount of democracy we have in this country at this point is fairly limited, but at least you have a theoretical ability to like pressure public officials and change policy and have a democratic will and conversation and debate around what this ecosystem should ultimately look like.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.